The breeze caught me completely unguarded that morning. I stood barefoot on the wide porch, coffee cooling between my palms, the coastal Georgia air still holding the cool edge of night. Then the wind rose sudden, playful, almost mischievous, tugging at the thin fabric of my sundress, lifting the hem higher than decency allowed. In that single, unguarded second, I felt exposed in a way I hadn't in years. And that's when I saw him. Daniel, my daughter Sophia's husband. He stood frozen at the top of the steps, one hand on the railing, eyes locked on me. I watched the pulse beat hard in his throat. One heartbeat, two. Neither of us spoke. The silence stretched, thick and trembling, speaking everything we weren't ready to say. It wasn't surprise in his gaze. It was something deeper, older, something that had been sleeping for a long time and had just opened its eyes. My real name is Margaret Hall. I'm 58 years old, and my life has grown quiet in a way I never expected. I live in a white, clapboard house just outside Charleston, a house that still carries faint traces of the man who used to fill it. He took his clothes, his favorite cologne, and every last spark he'd ever lit inside me. He left for someone younger, someone whose laughter still came easily. I didn't cry the day he walked out. I'd already spent too many tears while he was still here. Daniel is 37. He and Sophia met in college when love felt boundless and uncomplicated. Lately, though, she says the opposite, that he's distant, drifting somewhere she can't reach, even when he's sitting right beside her at dinner. I never imagined how far he had wandered until that morning on my porch. He found his voice first. "Morning, Margaret." I pulled my thin sweater tighter across my chest, pretending the gesture was only against the chill. "Sophia mentioned you needed someone to check the gutters." It was a lie. I hadn't spoken a word to Sophia about gutters. But instead of calling it out, I simply stepped aside. "Come in." He brushed past me, close enough that the air shifted warmer, heavier. I told myself I imagined the pull, the sudden awareness of his nearness. But long after he'd gone, the space he'd occupied still felt alive. That night, I stood before the mirror in my bedroom, studying my reflection not for the lines time had drawn, but for something else. What had he seen in that fleeting moment? On the porch? And why, God help me, did I ache for him to see it again? He returned the next day. No call, no warning. His truck eased into the driveway as if it already knew the way. This time I was dressed more carefully, shoes, a longer dress, composure mostly pretended. "Still worried about those gutters?" I asked, one eyebrow raised. He rubbed the back of his neck, that small smile returning. "Actually, Sophia said your kitchen faucet's been leaking." Another lie. Another quiet invitation. And again I led him inside. We sat at the old oak table. The wall clock ticked too loudly. I busied my hands rearranging dishes that were already in place, anything to avoid meeting his eyes directly. Then he asked, voice low, "You doing all right, Margaret?" "I'm fine," I answered. Automatically. Why do you ask? He looked down, thumb tracing slow circles on the rim of his coffee cup. "You seemed quieter lately." He nodded as if he understood more than I'd said. "Sometimes I walk through our house with Sophia and feel like a stranger. Like we're both just pretending we still remember how to love each other." I leaned forward too far, perhaps. "Marriage isn't always a home," I said quietly. "Sometimes it's just a long hallway lined with locked doors." The words hung between us. Something shifted in his eyes, a recognition. The versions of ourselves we'd almost forgotten. When he reached for the sugar bowl, his fingers brushed mine. We both froze. Electricity sparked along my skin. I could have drawn my hand away. I didn't. After my husband left, I realized the thing I missed most wasn't him. It was the feeling of being truly seen. And Daniel, in his quiet, conflicted way, was looking at me, not the 58-year-old woman, not his wife's mother. One evening, as he paused at the door, he whispered, "I tell you things I don't even tell Sophia." My heart stumbled. "Is that wrong?" I asked, searching his eyes. Maybe I answered for him. But it feels honest. No more talk of leaky faucets or sagging gutters. Sophia was away with the children that weekend, off visiting our cousins upstate. Daniel's truck appeared in my driveway just as the afternoon light began to soften, golden and forgiving. He didn't knock this time. He simply stood there on the porch, hands in his pockets, waiting for me to sense his presence. I opened the door without a word, stepping aside as he entered. The house felt different with him and it less empty, more alive. We moved to the living room where sunlight poured through the lace curtains, casting patterns on the faded carpet. Dust motes danced in the beams like tiny secrets suspended in time. I think about you more than I should. His voice was low, trembling at the edges, but his gaze held steady. My heart caught, a flutter I hadn't felt in decades. Do you think about Sophia when you're here? I asked, needing to hear the truth, even if it stung. His jaw tightened, a shadow crossing his face. I try to. The words hung heavy, laced with guilt and something raw. We sat there side by side, the warmth of his body radiating toward mine. I could hear his breathing, steady but quickening. The air thickened, charged with the weight of decisions neither of us wanted to make yet couldn't avoid forever. He lifted his hand slowly, letting it hover in the space between us, an invitation waiting for acceptance. I stared at it, feeling the pull in my chest. The silence became its own language again, full of longing and hesitation. I could have pulled away, ended it right there. But the truth was, I didn't want to. Not yet. In the days that followed, our encounters grew more frequent, more deliberate. He'd text me simple messages, thinking of you, or can I stop by? And I'd respond with a single word, yes. Each time, the conversations deepened, peeling back layers we'd kept hidden from the world. He spoke of the emptiness in his marriage, how the love that once felt limitless now seemed confined to routines and obligations. I shared stories of my own lost years, the quiet ache of watching life pass while feeling invisible. One afternoon, as rain pattered against the windows, we sat in the kitchen sharing a pot of tea. His fingers traced patterns on the tabletop, inches from mine. You make me feel alive again, he confessed, his eyes meeting mine with an intensity that made my pulse race. I leaned closer, the scent of his skin clean, faintly spiced filling the space. And you make me feel seen, I whispered back. But honesty came with shadows. I began to notice the small deceptions creeping in. A glance at my phone when Sophia called, wondering where he was. Just helping Margaret with some house stuff, he'd say, his voice steady over the line. I'd listen from the next room, a knot forming in my stomach. Was this how it started, the slow unraveling of trust? Still, the pull was stronger than the doubt. I was in the garden tending to the overgrown roses my husband had once planted. He joined me without a word, kneeling beside me in the soft earth. Our hands brushed as we worked, dirt mingling on our skin. You look beautiful like this, he said softly, his gaze lingering on my face. Then lower, tracing the curve of my neck where a strand of hair had escaped. Heat rose in my cheeks, a warmth that spread deeper. I turned to him, our faces close, the air between us electric. Daniel, I breathed, not sure if it was a warning or an invitation. He reached out, tucking the strand behind my ear, his touch lingering just a moment too long. Time seemed to slow, the world narrowing to the feel of his fingers on my skin. The quiet rhythm of our breaths sinking. We didn't speak of the future, of what this might mean for Sophia or the family. Instead, we lived in the stolen moments, where emotions ran deep and unchecked. But late at night, alone in my bed, regret would whisper, what if she found out? The thought twisted like a vine, tightening around my heart, yet the craving won out each time. The next visit came on a warm afternoon. He arrived with a small bouquet of wildflowers picked from the roadside. For you, he said, handing them over with a shy smile that belied the tension in his eyes. I took them, our fingers intertwining briefly. We walked inside, the door clicking shut behind us. In the hallway, he paused, turning to face me. Margaret, I don't know how to stop this. His words echoed my own unspoken fears. I stepped closer, feeling the solid warmth of him. Do you want to? He shook his head slowly, his hand finding the small of my back. The touch sent a shiver through me, subtle but undeniable, a reminder of desires long dormant. We moved to the couch again, sitting so close our thighs touched. Conversation flowed easily at first, then tapered into comfortable silence. His arm draped casually over the backrest, fingers brushing my shoulder. Tell me something real, he murmured. I hesitated, then confessed. I've forgotten what it feels like to be wanted like this. It scares me how much I need it. His eyes darkened with understanding. He leaned in, not quite closing the distance, but near enough that I could feel his breath on my lips. The moment stretched, heavy with possibility, and then the phone rang sharp, insistent, shattering the fragile bubble we'd created. The phone's ring sliced through the moment like cold water. I reached for the device on the side table, Sophia's name glowing on the screen. My stomach twisted. He watched me, expression unreadable, while I answered in a voice steadier than I felt. Hey. Sweetheart, I said, forcing lightness. Mom? Is Daniel still there? He said he was helping with something at your place. Her tone was casual, trusting. Too trusting. Yes, he's here, I replied, glancing at him. He stood now, hands in his pockets, staring at the floor. Just finishing up. Tell him to pick up milk on the way home, okay? The kids are asking for cereal tomorrow. I will. Love you. Silence. Returned, heavier now, laced with the reality we'd been ignoring. Daniel exhaled slowly. I should go. I nodded, though every part of me wanted to ask him to stay. We walked to the door together. His hand lifted, hesitated, then gently cupped my cheek. The touch was tender, almost reverent. This isn't simple, he whispered, but it's real. My eyes stung. I know. Days passed in a quiet ache. He didn't text. I didn't reach out. We were both trying to do the right thing, or at least pretending to. But the memory of his hand on my face, the nearness of his lips, played on repeat in the dark hours when sleep refused to come. A week later, rain fell steadily, drumming on the roof. I was reading in the living room when headlights cut through the dusk, his truck. My heart leapt despite myself. He knocked, this time polite, uncertain. I opened the door. Water dripped from his hair. His shirt clung slightly to his shoulders. I couldn't stay away, he said simply. I stepped aside. He entered, bringing the scent of rain and pine. I took it, hanging it to dry. Then we sat same sofa, same distance that now felt unbearable. I've been thinking, he began, about what happens if we keep going, about Sophia, the kids, everything, I swallowed, and I don't have answers. Only questions, and this feeling I can't shake. His voice dropped. You're under my skin, Margaret, in a way I never expected. I reached out, resting my hand on his. Our fingers laced together naturally, as though they'd always belonged that way. I feel it too, I admitted. More than I should, more than is safe. His free hand brushed a strand of hair from my face, then traced the line of my jaw. The touch was slow, deliberate, sending soft shivers across my skin. Tell me to leave, he murmured, eyes searching mine. And I will, no questions, I could have. The words were right there. But instead, I leaned in, closing the final inches. Our foreheads touched, breaths mingled. The world narrowed to the warmth between us. It was gentle, tentative at first, then deepening with the slow release of everything. We'd held back, not frantic, not desperate, just honest. A kiss that tasted of longing, regret, and something fragile and beautiful. We pulled apart only when air became necessary. His thumb brushed my lower lip, eyes dark with emotion. I don't know what tomorrow looks like, he said quietly. Neither do I answered. But right now, this is enough. No futures mapped. Just two people, flawed and aching, choosing a moment of connection over the safety of distance. Later, as he prepared to leave, he paused at the door once more. I'll call you tomorrow, he said, not a question, but a quiet vow. I smiled. Small and real. I'll be here. He stepped into the night. I watched his taillights disappear down the drive, the house settling back into quiet. But it was different now. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It carried echoes of touch, of truth, of a door we'd finally opened. I didn't know if this would end in heartbreak or something rarer. I only knew that, for the first time in years, I felt truly alive, and sometimes that's where the story truly begins. If this stirred something in you, the quiet pull of forbidden connection, the ache of being truly seen after so long, let me know in the comments. Share your thoughts. I'm listening.